Magandang araw, Melo.
Good afternoon, Howie. Welcome to San Mateo here in Siargao. Very few people have really come here. It's a little off-grid from the main destinations of Siargao. So,
Oo nga kasi pag naiisip yung Siargao, it's surfing, it's the tourism belt, but it's actually a very small part of Siargao, no? Siargao is a big island.
the whole island is huge. And it has been known about surfing, but there's so much more about the island.
But, you know, you've lived in big cities around the world, no? Tumira ka na sa New York, tumira ka sa London, aside from Manila, of course, and you grew up in a city as well. What brought you to Siargao?
What brought me to Siargao? But I came back here during the pandemic because we brought the vaccines here together with a doctor friend.
So you came here not as a tourist?
Not
no?
as a tourist. I was just here to assist
parang
a medical
mission.
team who were bringing the vaccines here, and they had an available seat, and I could have just been here for a weekend. And then every day was a revelation, and it was every day there was an unfolding, and there was a calling for me to stay. And I did stay longer. The pandemic in Manila was quite constricting. Medyo hirap akong gumalaw. I mean, I didn't realize
Like
that,
everyone else, of course.
but I didn't realize that until I was here.
You felt freer.
When I came to Siargao, everybody was so free. Very few people were wearing masks, and they were in the beach, and they were living life like normally. And I felt like I miss this.
But you had been coming to Siargao
I've been coming
for
here
a long time.
for a
no?
I've
Kasi
been coming
you
here.
grew up in Mindanao.
I'm a Mindanaoan. I grew up in Cagayan de Oro, so I've been coming here in the 90s. And I even covered one of the first international surfing competitions here when I was already with GMA.
As a producer.
As a producer, as a writer. And yeah, things were a lot simpler then, but Siargao has always had this magic to attract people from all parts of the globe, even then.
So tell me about this magic. I mean, what makes it special?
I think maybe because I'm Mindanaoan, so I feel deeply grounded and connected in the island. I speak the language of the people, so I don't feel like a stranger here. Yeah. And without words, the beauty of the island is just, you see it everywhere. And there's always a surprise element. There's always something among the top tourist destinations in the country. It is here in Siargao that I feel that people are treated equal. And there's really no wide gap between the resort owners or the wealthy set to the working set. I think this equality, this sense of equality that I feel strongly is partly because of the surfing culture that has really been the foundation of people visiting here. So it has created a subculture within the island. I'm not a surfer, but I can see that when surfers go to the waters, everybody's an equal. Walang mayaman, walang mahirap, walang maganda, walang pangit. Wala silang diskriminasyon sa anumang level. So it's you and your relationship with nature. And they carry that when they're on the ground.
So even sa nightlife, parang pwede mag-socialize.
Oh yes, here in Siargao, everybody communes together. Everybody parties together, whether you're a farmer, a resort owner, a waiter, a help. Everybody shares that collective camaraderie, fun together.
And kasi yun din ang sinasabi ng mga ibang dayo rito. No? There are many people from outside Siargao who have decided to live here and plant roots and start businesses here. And yun ang lagi nilang sinasabi. It's really a special place because of that. Not just because of nature, but because of the way people treat each other. No? And maybe that's why there's also a huge response nung nangyari yung Typhoon Odette.
For sure.
So where were you during Typhoon Odette?
I was here. I was in the island. When I learned about it days before the landfall, I knew how big it was based on the app. you can see how big the typhoon, and the island was so small. I wanted to leave the island, but for some reason I decided to stay. And I'm looking back now, I'm very happy. I'm glad that I stayed, because I am now even more grounded to the island. It was probably the most traumatic, terrifying experience I've ever had.
So where were you nung nangyari? You were at home.
I evacuated my place because I live by the beach. 2 days before the typhoon, nag-evacuate na ako. I decided to be closer to the inland, so pumunta ako sa kaibigan ko sa back road. And then I keep on asking friends for what else to do, right? So because in uncertainty, you want more information. So, and some of my friends who are experts with wind, because they're surfers, they told me to leave the place where I was staying at the back road, but I don't know where to go on the day of the typhoon that did the landfall, because I had no car. I don't know where to drive. So I just decided I want to go to where the rescuers are, and the firemen they're part of the rescuing team. So I decided to go to the fire station, and true enough, it was one of the safest places. And it wasn't listed as an evacuation center, so there was no crowd. But we were the first to go there, and probably the only one, me and my friends. At 6 a.m., nandun na kami. Yeah. And people started only coming around. No, hinihila na lang yung ibang tao na nasa daan ng mga firemen, kasi it was too dangerous for them to be by the road. Kaya sila pumunta ng fire station. And I felt so safe there. Yeah.
And anong nakita mo?
Yung fire station, you can see, kasi hindi siya locked eh. So, para kaming nanonood ng actual na nangyayari. So, that's when I saw coconut trees bending, and yung mga yero ng roofing ng kabilang ng schools and evacuation centers, you can see them flying. And my friend's house is, I can see it from the fire station. They were inside because they were trapped because they had lunch pa there. And I can see them like doing their flashlights like that, kasi asking for help. But the firemen said no, not at the height of the land. It was too dangerous for them to even rescue at the time. So yung gazebo niya nag-collapse, yung gate niya nag-collapse, the glass windows were broken. It was really, and we can see it from where we were. I was just praying for the safety of the people who were inside the house. So that was only one house. Can you imagine the entire island? Everybody had a lot of us had near-death experiences.
Nakabangon din ang Siargao, no? Sa tulong ng maraming nag-volunteer, tumulong dito. Isa ka doon, no? So
Immediately, the response of the people was to help. One of my closest friends in the island, he owns Siargao Town Center. Inisip niya, si Mr. Ken Shaw, inisip niya agad na we need to do something. So on the second day, he bought all the perishable goods in Pure Gold, because he has access to that, because it's on his land. They're renting on his land. So he bought all the perishable goods, the canned goods. So we were the first to, and he asked me to put together the kitchen. And because of my experience in Manila during the time we were doing Kawa Pilipinas, so I knew what to do in putting it together. And so we were the first to distribute hot meals the day after the typhoon.
a day after the typhoon?
A day after the
Nagka-hot
typhoon,
meals
yeah.
na.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, but you had to mobilize people to help.
Yes, and good thing, and we were so lucky, the island was so lucky that there was no storm surge. So with the devastation of the entire island, there was no smell of death. Hindi mo maramdaman compared to other natural disasters that it was way more tragic in that manner na
More
maraming
loss of
patay,
life.
di
Okay.
ba? Dito, no. But the following day, it was so sunny. Ang daming punong natumba, ang daming bahay na sira, but people were, you see everybody you know and you start crying, and you just feel that you're thankful to be alive. And then you ask yourself, I asked myself, do I need help or am I capable of helping? So when the answer is you're capable of helping, you do what you can do to help people. Yeah.
So, there was a spirit na nagpapakain kayo dahil yun ang kailangan, no? It was relief, no?
Yeah.
But then there's the rebuilding stage.
Yeah, so after that, the LGU asked us to stop our kitchen because they wanted other places to benefit from that hot meal. So that also became a signal for me to get out of the island. It wasn't, the not just the most uncomfortable, but it's also not the safest time to be in the island. There was no water, there was no clean water, no electricity. Hirap. It was so difficult. So when the kitchen was stopped, I decided to get out of the island. But I knew that I'm coming back.
Kasi magpapasko nun eh.
Exactly. So magpapasko. So I spent Christmas with my family in Cagayan de Oro. And I talked to my brother, and then he said, and I told my entire family that I really want to come back and do something to help. So I came back with a truckload of construction materials. I wanted to initially just to help 10 people, 10 families, so that I can be part of a community rebuilding. Yeah. So we started with 1, 2, and then a lot of people helped, and eventually we were able to rebuild around 60 homes for 60 families. And one of those persons that we help is from here, from San Mateo. So my process of selecting the beneficiaries was very similar to how we were doing it in Wish Ko Lang before. So
The show.
the show, yeah, which I was an executive producer. I started that show. So I was selecting inspiring stories, or selecting people who are most vulnerable. And one of the most inspiring stories we came across with is the story of a hero from San Mateo. So his name is Reman, and we looked for him. We came here and looked for him, and his house was really devastated.
Why was he a hero?
He was a hero because he was at the height of the landfall. There was zero visibility in the area. The school that most of the families and the children evacuated collapsed. So tinali niya sarili niya sa poste, and braved on to get all the kids one by one from the area that na-collapse yung school, and brought them to a safer place. That's the only concrete area here at that time. Yeah. So when we learned about his story, his heroic deeds, so we came here to help him rebuild his house. And it was also in this barangay that I felt people were so positive. Yeah. We've helped other people in other barangays in the island. It was here that I felt that people were really helping each other. So I thought if there's another layer of a project that we can initiate that's more sustainable, I want to do it here. So when I got together with some of my friends, some of the guys that I met during the rebuilding of the homes here in the 2 months from January to February, I met some people who also wanted to help in San Mateo. So we all helped. We all just decided to start something here that's sustainable. So we thought of the community farm.
And ano na ngayon ang kalagayan ng Siargao? Do you think it's bounced back?
If you look at tourism, yes. Yeah. But marami pa rin kasing dependent on the dole-outs. The island needs more sustainable initiatives, I think. And tulad dito sa San Mateo, they're far from the tourism area, so employment is mahirap para sa kanila. And in terms naman of becoming surf instructors, they're also not by the beach. So it's good that they're farming now because it's it can really help them not just address food shortage for their homes, but eventually become entrepreneurs and earn from their farm.
So, anong nakikita mong future ng tourism dito sa Siargao? What kind of tourism should it have? Kasi medyo it's come later than other tourism
Yes.
destinations in the Philippines.
Which has its own advantage. Yeah, because of the fact that it's not as accessible as other top tourism destinations. Napaka-slow ng kanyang progress. And if you look around, wala masyadong malalaking mga resorts. So most of the accommodations here are boutique accommodations or homestays, which has a very personal approach to hospitality. The structure is not very corporate. And I like that. That's why the relationships of the visitors and those who are entertaining them has also personal value to it. So a lot of these visitors come back. They feel at home coming back. Now I can see there's gonna be more buildings and bigger resorts eventually. You cannot stop that. But I just hope and wish that people who will invest in the island, especially in the tourism industry, will be more mindful, especially in preserving the natural state of the island. It can be most challenging, Howie, kasi waste management here is not yet there. So with small number of visitors coming in, hindi pa na-manage yung basura. How much more kung maraming pupunta tapos more basura pa? Mahirap. So sana with the growth of the tourism industry in the island, there is more mindfulness with waste management, with more personal kind of entertaining and welcoming the tourists. And sana makontinue yung kultura ng mga surfers na they're very mindful with nature. Nature is they live with the water, and they're so attuned with the wind, with the sun. So sana ma-adapt yan ng mga visitors who will come here. They don't need to surf. But if they become more familiar with how surfers live, they live simply, they're one with nature. So sana ganun din yung mga visitors na pupunta dito.
Much of your career, no, you've spent in Manila, and then nag-London ka, nag-New York, but you've been associated mainly with television personalities. You were a television producer.
I was a producer for
a long time. Yeah, exactly. Doon kita nakilala. And then you moved to Siargao, which is the province, no? It's considered a small place, although nakikilala na rin siya for tourism. Pero hindi ba malaking adjustment for you? Now, being in the center of action, the center of entertainment and politics, the biggest television station, and you're hanging around with these big name celebrity friends, etc. And then now you're in Siargao, which is, medyo backwater siya, kahit medyo kilala siyang lugar.
I never thought of it that way. I'm the type of person who I thrive where I am doing what I'm most passionate about. So, but I've always loved the island life. Growing up in Cagayan de Oro, we were very near Camiguin. And even when I was living in Manila, I was very close to people who had projects in Bohol, in Palawan. So, but never did I thought that Siargao will become my home. But I've always loved the provincial life. I'm not shocked even if I've lived in big cities. I enjoy much of it, whether I'm in a big city or in Siargao. Like even in Siargao, I don't even see it as very provincial. It's very simple. The life here is simple, but it's also very cosmopolitan, and I love that. Yeah.
So when you were working in GMA Network, no, you were starting pioneering shows, no? You part of Wish Ko Lang.
Yes.
And even more pioneering was the show Out, no?
Yes.
which didn't last very long because it was considered controversial, no? But nevertheless, no, sinuportahan ka ng network, no,
Yes,
for
super.
this experiment, no. It was an innovation in television at the time, no. Tell us about that experience, yung Out, no. It was
Out was so ahead of its time. Yeah. Well, I have to mention Nessa Valdelion being head of, the programs, the new programs for public affairs at that time, to be pushing for content that's out of the box, but also very meaningful for the audience. And gender empowerment was the concept of that show. It was the first LGBT focused program, a magazine show that was discussing in-depth issues about LGBT people. Nothing was like it. So it was ahead of its time, and that's also probably another reason why a lot of the people were not prepared for it. The stigma was so strong against the LGBT community.
But at the same time, it had an audience, no?
But it really had an audience, a strong following. It had a very good rating at the time. And true enough, like more than a decade later, I encounter people who had been watching that program and them realizing while they were watching that show that they were not alone. So it empowered them to know themselves better, and now they are in the positions of influence to fight for LGBT rights and push for diversity and inclusion in workspaces. And when they go up to me and express their gratitude that that show was around, it makes me feel so like, wow, I did the right thing. Yeah.
It was called Out, no? So was part of its mission encouraging people to come out?
It was definitely, it encouraged people to not be ashamed about being part of the LGBT community. And coming out is an act of pride. Yeah. Nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be afraid of. Just express who you are. So that was Out.
So, magte 20 years ago na tong show na to.
Almost,
It actually did not last long, no? Which is
It didn't, but the impact has been intense. At that short limit of time, I can still meet people who haven't forgotten it.
Bakit hindi siya nagtagal?
Well, at that time, the advertisers, the business people, they were scared about what the religious institutions might think about it, what's the impact on their children. So there was fear coming from so many conservative people, which I still see up to today. As we continue to fight for the SOGIE equality bill to pass into law, ang dami pa ring takot. They see being LGBT, being homosexual, being lesbian as a mistake, a sin, something that needs to be corrected. And the sad part is that they anchor that belief on a spiritual, foundation, which is, to me, it's not a mistake. It's not wrong to be gay or to be LGBT. There's nothing wrong being LGBT. But up to now, after more than 20 years, we're still fighting for the SOGIE bill to become a law. This speaks so much of what society in the Philippines still, how they see us as a community.
But do you see progress at all?
There's a lot of progress with technology. Vice Ganda is one of the most influential, powerful entertainment personalities in television. And she's part of the community. Drag Race Philippines is one of the strongest shows with a very strong following. These are unheard of in 10, 20 years ago.
I've seen drag shows on the street in
Yes.
Quezon City. They're
Yes.
they're set up temporary stages and my shows,
Yeah.
no? And then they attract followings, audiences, no?
Yeah. And yet the drag performances has been around in the Philippines decades before that. Yeah. So there's definitely progress, but the problem of no acceptance is still there. The stigma is still there. To me, I mean, this is my belief. People whose decisions are based on religion alone could never get out of that mindset that men and that human being is created only as man and woman. So they cannot go non-binary. To them, there's no science to being non-binary. So that's difficult.
Is Siargao any different when it comes to that, the respect for LGBT? I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable here with your identity, with your advocacy, or is it like the rest of the Philippines, the rest of the world?
I am not the best example for if whether an environment is accepting or not, because I am a very bold, brave individual, and because of my experience, I can express who I am anywhere. So, but I can observe that in Siargao, LGBT people are very, very comfortable in expressing their true identities and their true selves. So a lot of trans people in Siargao they own resorts, gay couples own businesses here. They're empowered. And I like that. And I don't think there is a strong stigma against the LGBT community in the island. Siargao is so open. It's one of the most liberal mindsets I have seen in the Philippines when it comes to gender equality, when it comes to individuality. Siargao is ahead.
All right. On that note, we want to thank you for your service to the community of Siargao, but also your advocacy and your service to the larger community. Maraming salamat. Queenmelo Esguerra,
Thank you,
Siargao
Howie.
resident.
Thank you, Howie.
Thank you.
But I thank Siargao for making me the happiest.
Hi, I'm Howie Severino. Check out the Howie Severino Podcast. New episodes will stream every Thursday. Listen for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms.